I was 16 years old when I first had the dream of Persephone. As in all my dreams of her, she was nude and would whisper in my ear as she danced around me. "Do you want Persephone?" she would ask sweetly. "Do you need Persephone?" she would say, running a hand across my chest. "Do you love Persephone?" "Yes. Yes. Yes." I would cry back. "Then you must kill for me," Persephone would finally say before planting the softest kiss upon my lips. Then, as always, I would wake up. When I met Juliana, I had just finished my university studies, graduating with a degree in art history from Essex, and hadn't had any dreams of Persephone for several years. Juliana and I found each other through our volunteer work at the Colchester Art Gallery known as the Minories. The Minories was small for a gallery and was staffed by a team of volunteers who all shared a passion for art. I spent most of my days there, talking to guests about the various pieces of work on display and keeping the place clean. I was looking for a job which actually paid, but I hadn't been fortunate enough to find anywhere which would hire me, and especially nowhere where my degree subject would be applicable. I dreamed of moving to London and working at one of the famous galleries, but when I met Juliana, I stopped dreaming of this and began to only dream of her. Juliana wasn't like the other women I had met in my life. She did not care for her appearance and would often wear the same paint-splattered dungarees for a week at a time. Her eyes were dark, as was her hair, which was always tied back in ponytail. She lived in a house share on the Greenstead estate, which was known as being the rough side of town, but God help anyone who would try to cross Juliana. She was fierce and passionate, and that passion glowed the brightest when she was painting. We started dating in June, and by August I had already moved into her already crowded house. Neither of us had paying jobs and lived off of government assistance, which we were both ashamed of, but work was hard to come by in the town of Colchester, and at least we weren't spending our money on drink and drugs. Instead, whatever was left after rent and the little we spent on food and bills went almost entirely on Juliana's paints. She was a visionary artist. Her command of color, the form of her figures and the emotion she could conjure with a simple brush stroke was nothing less than genius. I thought I loved her. I truly thought I did, but I did not know Persephone would come back into my life. It was the beginning of October when I asked Juliana what she would like for her birthday present, which was coming up in a couple of weeks' time. I thought she would ask for paints and was most surprised when she told me she would like to get a tattoo. I had no tattoos and neither did she. I had no idea she wanted one, but I'm not one of those people who find tattoos distasteful, and so that's what I got her. 3 weeks later we sat in the Flaming Gun tattoo studio, where a middle-aged bearded goth called Darren spent 4 hours creating her. He moved his tool with such expertise and precision from her head to her toe, flattering her curves and gifting her the features of a goddess. I watched trance-like as she came to life, and by the end of the session I was almost speechless at the beauty of her. "Do you like it?" Juliana had asked. "I do," I replied. But this reply was less of an answer to Juliana's question and more of a vow. A vow that I would never part from her because it was her, inked on her arm, a part of this world. It was my Persephone. That night I once again dreamed of Persephone. "Do you want Persephone?" she asked sweetly. "Do you need Persephone?" she said, running a hand across my chest. "Do you love Persephone?" "Yes. Yes. Yes," I cried back. "Then you must kill for me." From that moment on, she was all I could think about. I no longer dreamed of Juliana, it was Persephone, the woman on my girlfriend's arm, that I dreamed of now. I was obsessed, and when Juliana would wear long-sleeve shirts I was almost beside myself and could hardly wait to get home so she would undress and I could see my love again. She was everything to me. A beauty like no other I had ever seen. One day as Juliana and I were walking down the high street in Colchester town centre, a man bumped into Juliana's left arm. I wasn't annoyed at his rudeness or his disrespect of Juliana, I was incensed with anger that another man had touched my Persephone. I spun around and smashed my fist into the back of his head. He fell forward onto the floor, but the rage I had wasn't quelled. I kicked him furiously, in his stomach and in his head. Juliana screamed for me to stop, but I couldn't. I kicked and kicked until his face was bloody. Eventually 2 passing gentlemen pulled me away. I rushed to Juliana and placed my hand gently upon her coat, where I knew Persephone was. I don't know what came over me. I kept saying. It took a couple of weeks for Juliana to forgive me for my outburst, but eventually she did. I was so relieved, I was so fearful she might leave me, and I would lose my Persephone forever. My love for Persephone only grew as November turned into December, but it was more than love, it was lust. I needed her. Every night I had that dream, every night she asked me to kill for her, but I thought this nothing more than a dramatic romantic gesture, but I know now I was wrong. On New Year's Eve, Juliana and I had the house to ourselves as our housemates had all gone to a bar to celebrate. We took this opportunity to make love, loudly and passionately. So often we would have to be so quiet in case we were to wake one of our housemates, but with the freedom of our home we copulated wildly. I lost myself in that moment, and before I realized what I had done, Juliana had already slapped me. "What did you say?" she yelled as she jumped off the bed. "Who is Persephone? Who is she?" Juliana continued. I couldn't say anything, I was speechless. "You cheating bastard," she screamed as she slapped me again. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't tell Juliana that it was her tattoo. I also couldn't say it was a real person. "Pack your things and get out." "What?" I had said. "Pack your shit and get out of my house." "It's fucking over. Juliana, it was just an accident. Please calm down." I replied, "Calm down? You just said another woman's name whilst sleeping with me." "I'm done. We are done." I pleaded with her for over an hour, but Juliana would not change her mind and continued to tell me she did not want to be with me and demanded I take my things and go. I'm not sure what happened next. I felt fear, grief and anger. I had lost my Persephone and this was something I could not comprehend. I walked out of the bedroom into the kitchen, which is where I found the knife. I know I cut Juliana's throat first. Then I carved the skin off of her arm. We are in London now. Tomorrow we are visiting some art galleries. I'm not stupid, I know the police are looking for us. It's only a matter of time, but before they do I will spend at least one perfect day with the person I love the most in this world. My Persephone. In my dream last night she thanked me. She said one day I will be one of her princes, but first I must send her more souls, and then as always she asked me. "Do you want Persephone?" she asked sweetly. "Do you need Persephone?" she said, running a hand across my chest. "Do you love Persephone?" "Yes. Yes. Yes." I cried back. "Then you must kill for me." "And I will."